Bitcoin is going to 30K. It's bad news. You lose all your money. Sell everything now. Is what literally every guru is screaming on social media right now. But let's have a look at some actual data instead of just screaming random predictions out of fear. You see, in order for Bitcoin to go up, we need two things to happen. We need more buyers, and those buyers need more capital. But how are these investors going to get more capital? Well, let's have a look at Jerry. He's a US citizen and he earns $3,000 per month. On a daily basis, he thinks about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other investments, but he's troubled by rent, groceries, and bills. So this is what his regular spending looks like. He spends about $450 on groceries, about $1,600 on rent, about $700 on his car payment, including gas, and $250 on everything else. In other words, once Jerry has paid all his expenses, well then his $3,000 now look more like $0. At the end of every month, Jerry is left with $0, which doesn't allow him to invest in anything. However, if Jerry is lucky, well then Trump will give him a $2,000 stimulus check. Donald Trump will deliver stimulus checks to US citizens, and that means they will have an extra $2,000 in their bank account. And now Jerry's spending looks like this. He has his regular spending, but then he also used $2,000 to invest in Bitcoin. During COVID, the US government made over 476 million individual payments, and it's expected that about 7% of them invest their stimulus check. That's 33 million payments.
President Trump says he is now giving a timeline for his proposed $2,000 rebate checks. He says Americans could actually see them by the middle of next year. Some problems with that, though. The money would come from tariff revenue, but here's the big catch with that. The plan still needs congressional approval, and that's a long shot.
In other words, Donald Trump here is proposing to pay out U.S. citizens $2,000 of tariff revenue. That would again mean that people like Jerry would now have money to invest in assets like Bitcoin, and we always see assets pump when stimulus checks hit. But that's not the only way that these investors can get capital, because we have a Fed meeting the 10th of December, and right now there's currently an 84.7% probability that we're going to see a 25 base point rate cut. What this means is that borrowing money becomes cheaper. Investors then borrow more money, which means they have more money, which means there's a higher chance that they're going to invest in risk assets such as Bitcoin. Let's have a look at the last time the Fed decided to aggressively cut rates, which was in September of 2024. So during that period, Bitcoin rised with 88%, going from 58,000 all the way up until 109,000. Again, people have more money. Well, that means it's good for risk assets. Now, I also want to show you the overall sentiment, and I've also showed this exact chart in a previous video, but it's just so important. You see, people are worried whenever the market comes down, but what they don't understand is that a market has three phases. It can either show bullish sentiment, a consolidation, or some sort of bearish sentiment or pullback. Let me show you exactly what that means. Right here, we got bullish sentiment, right? Price was going up. After that, we saw a minor consolidation before the next massive leg up. Then we were met with yet another consolidation before another leg up, and then we saw this bearish sentiment / pullback before the next leg up. Bitcoin is now doing the exact same thing, right? Bitcoin was rallying for quite a bit here. I mean, literally over 160 days. And now we're seeing this pullback, which is inevitably going to happen. If a market goes up, well, then it has to come down in order to keep going up. It simply cannot just go up, and go up. What we also saw during this major Bitcoin dip is assets like gold starting to rally even further. These are safe haven assets, okay? And they are assets investors pivot towards whenever they are uncertain regarding the economy. So once this bubble pops and we see gold sort of starting to come down, well, then we can expect the investor confidence to return and that money to flow right into risk assets such as Bitcoin. And let me tell you this, I mean, we've seen gold just being on an absolute rally here for God knows how many days, and it has to come to an end. Bitcoin is currently at a critical level, okay? According to the Bitcoin power law corridor, well, then we're currently sitting at a critical support level. The last two times price has tested this area was in 2024, and that was followed by a 105% gain. Bitcoin has now made its way down to that exact same support level as it was at in 2024, and therefore we can expect that same rally to take place. But it's not only Bitcoin. I mean, have a look at the RSI on Ethereum. We're currently at levels on the RSI that we don't see that often. Last time was in April of 2025. We saw it again in August of 2024, in August of 2023, and again in June of 2022. And we're seeing that exact same area being hit right now. And let me tell you this, I mean, in 2022, after we hit this oversold area on the RSI, we got 101% pop here. Same thing happened in August 2023, 166 pump. In September of 2024, a 93% pump. And in April of 2025, we got a 257% pump. And now, well, we can expect the exact same thing to happen. Because, I mean, literally every time we've hit this level historically, well, then price has reacted positively. In my personal opinion, there's absolutely no reason to worry about Bitcoin until we start getting weekly closures below this low. If I zoom out here, you can clearly see that during this entire bull market from 2022 and all the way till now, we really haven't shifted sentiment, right? The market has not really shifted structure. So if we pay attention to all the lows that were made during this bull run here, well, then we can see that literally none of them was closed below. And so if the market now starts closing below this low, well, then we can start to talk about price acting abnormal, and then we can start to be worried. But until that happened, well, then I basically don't see this as anything unusual. And again, even if we were to close below this low here, I would still not look at it as anything but an opportunity. There is one specific area that I'm monitoring right now for Bitcoin, and that's this weekly fair value gap that you're looking at here. If we get a weekly candle closure above this imbalance, well, then my next target immediately becomes new highs for Bitcoin at 126,000. And I'm not kidding, guys. I've been long on Bitcoin since about 86,000. I'm still holding my long positions, and I will continue to hold them until we break structure. What I'm really interested in here on the daily time frame is a break above this resistance level that you're looking at here. So if we could continue this bullish momentum above this resistance level, well, then there's a good chance that we are now switching from bearish sentiment and into bullish sentiment once again. And if that happens, plus the weekly candle closure above the imbalance, I mean, I think it's pretty inevitable that we are going higher. We can even look at this as like a power of three, right? This here being the consolidation phase, now this down here being the manipulation phase, and then finally seeing that distribution phase all the way to new highs. This is a very common pattern. In other words, look at this as an opportunity to buy Bitcoin at a discount. Moments like this come around twice a decade, and people say the same thing every time. We're seeing Bitcoin crash articles left, right, and center, and we're seeing people on Twitter cry about this crash on a daily basis. My honest advice is don't listen to these guys. They don't understand data, and they are driven by emotion. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update video.